muscle fatigue. Skeletal muscles get fatigued sometimes. Whenever we are doing heavy exercise, what happens? The energy demand is developed. There is a demand of energy because the amount of oxygen that we inhale and the amount of it produced due to normal, actually the amount of oxygen that we inhale during normal breathing and the amount of energy produced is not sufficient to meet the energy demand during excessive exercise. So during excessive exercise, what happens? The demand of energy is developed, so that what happens here? To fulfill the demand of energy, glycogen muscle glycogen undergoes glycogenolysis to form glucose, and then glucose undergoes glycolysis to form pyruvic acid, and then pyruvic acid undergoes lactic acid fermentation, and lactic acid this is converted to lactic acid with the release of some amount of energy. So during active exercise, to fulfill the demand of energy, muscle glycogen undergoes glycogenolysis to form glucose, and then glucose undergoes glycolysis to form pyruvic acid, and then pyruvic acid is converted to lactic acid with the release of some amount of energy, and this energy is then with the energy demand. Is it clear? Now, so this is called anaerobic respiration. Lactic acid formation is that under anaerobic respiration occurs actually. So you can say anaerobic breakdown of glycogen. This is called this energy will fulfill the demand of energy. So this is called anaerobic breakdown. This is called anaerobic breakdown of glycogen. So as actually continuously if lactic acid is formed, so due to the accumulation of lactic acid, the muscles becomes fatigued. So the muscles get fatigued due to the accumulation of lactic acid. Lactic acid due to accumulation of lactic acid, what happens? The muscles get fatigued. Is it clear? During excessive exercise to fulfill the demand of energy, muscle glycogen undergoes glycogenolysis to form glucose. Then glucose undergoes glycolysis to form pyruvic acid, and then pyruvic acid is converted to lactic acid with the release of some amount of energy. So here it is actually called anaerobic breakdown of glycolysis. The energy produced in this way will fulfill the demand of energy. But as a consequence of continuous accumulation of lactic acid, the muscles get fatigued and we feel pain at that time. But whenever we take rest in an actually well ventilated room, actually we can be relieved out of this pain. Is it clear? What causes muscular fatigue? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how to overcome this problem? To take rest in well ventilated room. Because the reaction are like this. The last reaction I am showing you. Glycogen, glucose, pyruvic acid, lactic acid plus energy. This is the LDH or lactate dehydrogenase. So this is what about the reaction. Clear? So when we take rest for a while in a well ventilated room, what happens? In the presence of oxygen, again NADH is converted to NAD. So lactic acid, then reaction appear like this after muscle fatigue. Lactic acid, lactic acid, when actually we take rest, that lactic acid is converted to pyruvic acid, which in turn will form glucose to form glycogen again. This is what happened. When we take rest, lactic acid is converted to pyruvic acid. In the NAD is required for this. So NAD, here NADH is used up. So to get NAD, oxygen is required. And now pyruvic acid converted to glucose. Then it is to be converted to glycogen again. So this is what about the fate or what will happen when we take rest. Once lactic acid is removed out from the muscle, again muscles become active so that it can take part in contraction. So this is what about how does muscle get fatigue, and secondly how can it be relieved from this pain? Actually, whenever muscles get fatigued, we feel pain and we can be relieved from it by taking rest. Why? Because whenever we are taking rest, this reaction takes place so that eventually lactic acid gets removed out from the muscle and muscles become active again. Clear? Is it clear to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I am going to rub it out, please.
So wait for a while.
Okay.
Done, sir.
Okay. Then comes to the red muscle and white muscle. Two types of muscle fibers are found generally. One is red muscle fiber, other is the white muscle fiber. If the muscles called red muscle fibers, when you will get more myoglobin and plenty of mitochondria. More myoglobin and plenty of mitochondria, then you can use the term red muscle fiber. But whenever less myoglobin and less number of mitochondria, it appears pale, then you can call it white muscle fiber. So, red muscle fiber, as it contains more myoglobin, so it is called aerobic fiber. Sometimes it is called aerobic muscles. Because oxygen is available in this muscle, but white muscle fibers, it gets fatigued quickly because amount of myoglobin is less, so amount of oxygen is limited. So you can call it anaerobic fibers, anaerobic muscles. One thing is more, is white muscle fibers contain more amount of and sarcoplasmic reticulum than that of the red muscle fibers. I said red muscle fiber cannot be fatigued easily. Red muscle fibers cannot be fatigued easily, whereas white muscle fibers can be fatigued easily. Remember these two differences. Red muscle fibers cannot be fatigued easily, but white muscle fibers can be fatigued easily because the amount of myoglobin is less in the white muscle fiber. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is what about the muscle. So muscle part is muscle tissue is completed. Now we proceed towards the nerve tissue. Can I rub it out? Okay, I'm writing one. Contraction. Tension remains same, but the muscle shortens. This is isotonic. In isometric, tension is increased, but the length of muscles remains same. So you need to remember these two types of muscular contraction. Suppose whenever I am bending this, you see here what happens, the length of muscle fiber decreases. Then it is called isotonic. Tension same, but whenever I am going to pull a bucket full of water, a big bucket, a full of big bucket full of water, then usual tension increase. Actually what happens, the tension is increased, but the length of the muscle fiber remains same because you cannot bend it. Whenever you are pulling, actually taking a bucket full of water, large bucket full of water, you cannot bend your hand. That means here the length of the muscle fiber remains same, but tension is increased. So there are two types of muscular contraction. One is isotonic contraction, other is the isometric contraction. I think the bending of arm. Whenever we are bending of arm, it is actually an example of isotonic. Whenever we are actually pulling a heavy object, then it should be isometric. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So remember this thing. So this is all about the muscle. Now we proceed to the nerve tissue. The nerve tissue. neuron, neuroglia, ependymal cells, neurosecretory cells. They are the components of the nerve tissue. Now, I am to discuss neuron first. Can I rub it out?
Yes, sir.
Epidermal cells, ependymal cells, ependymal cells. Getting me? Just a minute, please, sir. I'm coming. This is the cell body. Nucleus. So, the cell body, this is called neurolemma, axolemma, exoplasm, axon terminal. This is axon terminal. So here same thing, you will get suppose this is the neurolemma. So this part is axolemma. Here you will get the exoplasm. This fatty layer is found just born on the axolemma called myelin sheath. The cells present here called Schwann cell, and this called node of Ranvier. So there are two neurons. This is the non-myelinated, and this is myelinated. One is non-myelinated, other is the myelinated. Two neurons are there. Clear? So in the cell body, what we get? Cell body, the following thing. There are two nucleus. Nasal granules. Neurofibrils. Mitochondria. Golgi body, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, all are found in the cell body. Is it clear? What are found in the cell body? Clear? Regarding next comes to the cell body was the true nucleus. Then you will get the nasal granules. You will get the neurofibrils, mitochondria, Golgi body, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, etc. All these are found in the. Now, in the axon, first of all, you remember this thing. There are two processes of the developed from the cell. One is shorter process. Dendron branch is called dendrite, and the longer process is called the axon. Axon is also called the nerve fiber. Now, the part of cell body from where axon is developed is called axon hillock. If you go to the axon, so what is not found in the axon, you need to remember this thing. Axon is developed of nasal granules, Golgi bodies, ribosomes. Axon Golgi body and but most important thing, neurofibrils are found abundant in axon fiber, in axon. Remember this thing. Axon is devoid of nasal granules, Golgi body and ribosomes, but neurofibrils are found abundant in the what is called axon type. Now, we have to proceed during the, so we have to discuss about the how is impulse propagated. Now you see what is the difference between this myelinated and non-myelinated neuron. You see in myelinated neuron, myelin sheath, a fatty sheath is found, which is found absent in non-myelinated neuron. So in non-myelinated neuron, myelin sheath is found absent, whereas in myelinated neuron, myelin sheath is found present. Clear? Is it okay? বুঝতে পেরেছো? Now you know regarding the how is impulse propagated through it. Okay, I am showing you one thing. Okay, I am to wrap this part, not this one. It's not possible to show you. Can I wrap this part? Can I wrap this part, please? Now you see how is impulse propagated. Look, this is, you can call it neurolemma. Axolemma. Exoplasm. Neurolemma. Axolemma. So impulse is to be propagated through this. How? Now to facilitate impulse propagation inside the exoplasm, the charge should be negative, and in the extracellular fluid present in between the, you will get the extracellular fluid. Here the positive charge is to be maintained. How can it be maintained? There is a sodium potassium pump which helps in the removal of C sodium ion So this is what happened here, you see. So at a time 2 sodium or potassium ion enters, 3 sodium ions leave. So that it becomes electronegative inside the exoplasm and electropositive outside. It's a resting neuron. It is found in resting neuron. Resting neuron. When impulse is not propagating. But at the time of impulse propagation, okay, see. Now if I just going to compartmentalize like this, look one thing. Normally, here you will get like this. Is it clear? Now this is electronegative, electropositive. whenever impulse comes, suppose this is the impulse comes over here. Whenever the impulse comes, permeability of the axolemma changes at a particular point where impulse comes. So it allows more sodium ion to enter. In turn, less potassium ions are released out. So that here it becomes electropositive now. But in the extracellular fluid, it is electronegative. Whenever impulse comes, permeability of the axolemma changes. It allows more sodium ion to enter inside, so that inside electropositive charge is developed, whereas outside it is electronegative charge. Now, in between these 2 points, so this point A, this is suppose point B. In between A and B, a gradient is developed. So from here, impulse is propagated from this side to this. Now, at this point, you can call it depolarized. When it is called depolarized, it is actually called polarized. This is depolarized, but it is polarized at this point. So impulse comes here in this direction, but here in this direction. In the exoplasm, it is A to B. In the extracellular fluid, it is B to A. And as a consequence of which, what happens? After that, what we have seen, let me show you this. Okay. Okay. Now, as soon as the impulse leaves A for B, then A returns to its original position, then you can call it repolarized, and B is now depolarized. Already impulse is propagated here, then impulse will be propagated from B to next, suppose C. In this way, impulse is propagated. So initially it is polarized. Whenever impulse comes, it becomes depolarized. When impulse leaves, again becomes repolarized. Is it clear to you? Is it clear to you? 2. In resting neuron, in the exoplasm, negative charge is to be maintained. Outside, it should be positive charge. Then, to maintain this negative electronegative charge in the exoplasm, sodium-potassium pump operates. It allows the expulsion of 3 sodium ion from the exoplasm to the extracellular fluid. In return, from extracellular fluid, 2 potassium ion enters, so that electronegative charge is maintained within the exoplasm in resting neuron. Whenever impulse comes at a particular point, the permeability of the membrane changes. Then it allows more sodium ion to enter the exoplasm, so that here electropositive charge is developed in the exoplasm, and outside it is electronegative. So this part is said to be depolarized. Now at the adjacent point, it is still polarized. So from A, suppose depolarized state, to B, which is still polarized, impulse proceeds. In the exoplasm, it is A to B, and but in the extracellular fluid, it is B to A. And then, as a result of which, eventually impulse is carried to the B, and A point returns to its original position. That is, they again become not less permeable to sodium ion. So inside the exoplasm, electronegative charge. In the extracellular fluid, electropositive charge is maintained. This is called repolarized state. Clear? Okay.
Yes, sir.
ক্লিয়ার? এটা বুঝেন, আমি আসলে একটা মিনিট। Now, if you compare this to myelinated and non-myelinated neuron, through which impulse is propagated quickly, because you know for the propagation of nerve impulse, regular exchange of ion is required. Until regular exchange of ion occurs, nerve impulse cannot be propagated. Then the question comes, how is the impulse propagated? In this case, where myelin sheath is there, which acts as insulator. Then where there is myelin sheath, the impulse is not allowed to be propagated through this. That means, in case of myelinated neuron, you see here what happens. The impulse is to jump from node of Rinvier to node of Rinvier for being propagated. This is called jumping movement. But here it is linearly propagated because there is no myelin sheath here. So as in myelinated neuron, due to the presence of myelin sheath, the impulse is to jump from node to node for being carried. So the speed of nerve impulse motion is more in case of myelinated fiber than that of non-myelinated fiber. So actually, myelin sheath is developed in vertebrates in order to adapt with the environment, because vertebrates are required to respond to the external stimuli quickly. Required to respond to the external stimuli quickly, and that's why they should have this myelin sheath. In invertebrates, if you go to the nervous system of the invertebrates, myelin sheath is not found. But here myelin sheath is found. So that due to the presence of myelin sheath, impulse is propagated quickly, and that's why myelin sheath is found to be present in the neurons of vertebrates. But there are some invertebrates which are to respond quickly to the environmental changes, like squid. So in them, although they don't have myelinated neuron, but what one adaptive feature is found in them? What is this? It is that their neurons are found to be thick. So, if impulse is in the form of electrical impulse is propagated, so if a thin fiber and a thick fiber, you see the impulse is propagated quickly through a thick fiber than a thin fiber. In case of squid, the nerve fibers are thicker than are normal, so that impulse is propagated quickly. So although they don't have myelin sheath, although they don't have myelinated neuron, but they can respond quickly to the environmental changes. Is it clear to you? Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we discussed today after the myelin sheath, actually myelinated and non-myelinated neuron completely. What it is left, I will discuss tomorrow. That is the actually what is called the synapse, structure of synapse, and propagation of nerve impulse to the synapse. Actually, this part, synapse, and this part is actually in the unit 5 part. We clear now?
Yes, sir.
So I am going to close today. My next class, I am going to discuss synapse, and then to start then the enumeration is completed. Then we have to start the unit 4. A part of unit 5 also completed. Okay? Any doubt? Any question?